Redditors who grew up poor. Besides practical money-saving measures, what were the unwritten social expectations of your world growing up? By Ask Reddit.
You never brought the field trip permission slips home because you knew better than to make your mom feel guilty she couldn't pay the $5 to $20 fee to let you go.
I did this, too. Staying behind in the library while everyone else went, honestly was perfectly fine with me.
I learned not to ask for things I don't really need. I should do fine on my own is what I think. Don't always ask for help.
That's one thing my dad wouldn't let us miss out on. Even during the recession he got upset I hadn't told him about a field trip. He was willing to shell out money for my senior trip to Disney World but I refused. I knew about our situation by then.
Gosh. I'm mid-40s now. In my childhood I spent dreaming of Disney, Universal Studio, and mostly Space Camp in Huntsville. My classmates and cousins all went multiple times. I was 31 when I had enough of my life together to be comfortable blowing money on a real vacation. Disney, Universal, and 3 whole days to Kennedy Center, combing every inch of that place twice. Sure, the magic wasn't the same as if I had been a kid, but it was still so special and I enjoyed not only the parks but the pride that I paid for it all by myself. I want to say, never too late.
Oh gosh, this made me remember a kindergarten field trip to the pumpkin patch. I was an only child to a single mom, and she worked 2 jobs just to make ends meet. There was no such thing as buying something that wasn't essential, so buying a pumpkin to carve for Halloween just didn't happen. I'm assuming the pumpkin patch was a free friend trip, or else I was too young to see my mom scrape money together so I could go, but by then I already had an understanding of things cost money that we can't afford. I asked over and over if we had to buy the pumpkin, and that I didn't bring any money. But our teacher assured all of us that we got to keep whichever one we picked out, and the only rule was we had to carry it back to the bus on our own. I was a tiny kid for my age, and searched for the biggest pumpkin I could find since I'd never have the chance at that again. I carried that damn pumpkin myself, even though it was almost as big as me. Haha, I remember the teacher herself trying to carry it for me because she felt bad. But I was not letting that freebie get away.
Hide money or it will be borrowed. Also, don't get attached to anything because if it's any good it'll be sold in a yard sale, and if it has any value it will be pawned. I got the same CD player for 3 Christmases and birthdays in a row, out of pawn for birthday, pawned again a month later, out of pawn for Christmas, pawned again by March, etc.
I drew all over my PlayStation after getting it out of pawn for the 2nd time. My parents had pawned it the first time after asking me if they could. They promised me all sorts of stuff, like new games and treats when they got it out. That didn't happen. The 2nd time they pawned it, they did it while I was at school. They didn't even tell me. They just waited for me to go into my room and see that it was gone. So when I got it back that time, I grabbed a Sharpie and drew gross pictures on it and swear words. Same with all my games. I mean, I only had FF7 and Tekken 3, but I didn't want to take any chances.
Yup. I was always at school when my poo got pawned too, would come home and it would be gone. I think the worst part was that sometimes my music was still in it. How many tapes and CDs I lost that way, but I do remember being absolutely livid over the fact that nobody checked to make sure there was nothing in it before they took it to the shop.
Marking your territory. Nice.
I am the second of 8 kids of high school dropout parents. It doesn't matter if you don't like the food, clothes, shoes, toys etc. Take it, say thank you and be appreciative. You can do anything you want, as long as it's free. You will survive. If someone needs it more, let it go. Never tell anyone you are hungry or need something, it makes you seem weak and needy. The second you become working age, 10 plus, you will help with bills. You have no choice. Your money is everyone's money. Which is fine, until you realize the new tattoo mom has and dad's new TV. Edit. Thank you for the conversation and awards. I am happy to hear a lot of us who struggled are doing so well and have even tried or succeeded in repairing the relationship with their parents. I hope you all have a great life and a beautiful day.
Until you realize the new tattoo mom has and dad's new TV. None motherfucker, you bought a motorcycle last week. None a bit older. I remember seeing my dad shouting at my uncle thinking they were alone when us kids and cousins were supposed to wait in the car, but I had went back for some reason. None, sorry for the rant.
Keep your aspirations to yourself. Telling anyone in your household /social strata about your plans to get out and do better may be met with bitterness and downright ridicule. People will call you uppity for wanting to go to school or stupid for having a career goal that isn't modest and local and vaguely dead-end. People will tell you that you have no common sense simply because you refuse to see the world in terms of pure survival. I've never had a stranger put into words the exact ways I was ridiculed for daring to go to college. I had your same experience, except that in all the ways me going to school and not keeping that good $8.25 retail job, of which they took all the pay for bills, would lead to my parents and 2 younger brothers, eviction. I was told I was never welcome back if I left. But I had to. I haven't seen or heard from the 4 of them in 15 years. I'm closer to my 12th grade English teacher who made my depressed ass apply for the scholarship that eventually paid for my college. Wow, sorry for the long post. Just brought back memories.
I hope you're doing better, dude/Judette. You made the right choice. A loving family should support you and want you to achieve the best you can for yourself. I'm proud of you if no one else is.
It sucked to have a computer for school but not be able to afford it.
Yes. Many times.
Going to the doctor isn't an option until your fever is sustained at 104, a bone is broken, or the tooth rotted and won't fall out on its own. I am in my late 30s with full insurance and still have a hang-up about going for medical care.
I have 2 gaps to this day from teeth that were removed because you could get rotted teeth removed at the free health center. If you had tooth problems, you waited until the tooth rotted out and had it removed. It was such a shock to me when I found out people have full-on relationships with their physicians and dentists because they saw them regularly all their childhood. I can tell my teeth have shifted over the years from not being able to get replacement teeth or bridges. This is the saddest puyo to not even be able to have preventative care. Never tell your friends that you couldn't afford food or give them any clue about what it's like at home. My mother used to ask me if I told anyone how we live, and that's when I started questioning our situation.
I once told some friends we had mushrooms growing in our house. I thought it was cool. My mom was angry and told me to never tell anyone again. I realized as I got older why she was angry. The floor of our house was rotting, thus the mushrooms. But she couldn't afford to get it fixed. She was worried CPS would take me away for unsafe living conditions.
When I was like 8, my parents' bathroom was carpet, so was the other bathroom, no idea why, and their shower was leaking, thus mushrooms grew in the corner, and I thought it was the coolest thing ever and wanted it to happen again. Took me another 5 years to realize how bad that actually was.
I thought this was going to be a different type of mushrooms.
If it had been, maybe they could have had a floor.
I was talking to a friend and she stopped me and said, "You don't tell people what goes on inside of this house, do you?" "No, of course not," I lied, because if I'd said yes, she'd manipulate my father into beating my ass within an inch of my life. She pretty much got my father to beat me whenever she wanted it.
What a bitch of a friend. Edit because I misunderstood. What a bitch of a mother.
I think they meant their mother asked them as they were talking to a friend.
I grew up in a trailer. In 4th grade, a girl was having a birthday party and needed addresses for invitations. The next day she told me her parents uninvited me because I lived in the trailer. That was a new thing I learned I was supposed to be embarrassed about. I guess just expecting to have to deal with other people's booty parents sometimes. Edit. Thanks for all the replies and awards. I really thought this comment would get lost in the thread. I'm 31 and I still think about this all the time, and it puts me back in that small place all over again, which I know is silly. Stuff just sticks with you sometimes, yeah, no. Actually felt good to sort of get it off my chest though. I've read all the replies and see all of you. We can make our own little trailer park smiling face.
I feel this in my gut. I grew up feeling ashamed and a lot of times not understanding why. Adults were way meaner than kids ever were. I work with kids because I want to make sure that all of them know they are worth it no matter what is going on at home.
Adults are just giant kids, and they have no idea what they're doing anyway.
I'm so sorry that happened. Money really can't buy class.
I remember other kids' parents not wanting me over because I was always hungry. I remember the same parents being upset when I started going to the gifted program with their kids too. Bitch, I'm effing 9. You're a goddamn doctor. I just want to cut down trees with your son and split a Pop-Tart.
The not being welcome because of hunger thing stuck with me. I was a kid who had never lived in a house with enough food. I thought the kids who drank apple juice were bougie because we only had water. The experience of being yelled at by an adult for enjoying something their child shared with me shamed me to my core. Anytime my kids have friends over, I go out of my way to treat them to a good meal or some choice snacks. No one goes without in my home.
Non-edit. Thanks for all the awards, strangers. I'm just saying what we all seem to be thinking. It's really wonderful reading all the stories of the people you have helped and have helped you. It's restoring my faith a bit in a time when there's a lot of craziness going on.
I used to always have other kids at my house at meal times when my kids were still in school, middle school and up. Feeding all those kids every day kinda got hard to do. I told my kids I couldn't afford to keep feeding all their friends, and told them to go eat at their friends' houses. They told me, "Mom, the reason they all eat over here is you are the only mom we know who knows how to cook." Then I told them I'd be glad to give cooking lessons, and the kids said, "Mom, they don't have the money to buy the groceries." I kept cooking and having friends over for supper.
Thanks for being that kind of mom. I bet it meant the world to them. I remember growing up with my older brother and his friends being around constantly. I just thought that was normal. They would even be at Thanksgiving dinner every year. 20 years later, and my mom told me that she had them over so often because of their situations at home. She actually spoke to one of the other mothers about it, who ended up thanking my mom because not having their teenage boy at home for dinner meant his siblings would have more to eat.
When my son was little, about 3, we had a family that lived across the street. I honestly don't know everything that went on there, but food was scarce. The parents were on and off DG. The little boy was in kindergarten. He came over to my house every day after school to play with my 3-year-old. Actually, he came over, I fed him a snack, he watched cartoons, then would fall asleep until my husband would come home from work. Then I sent him home. This happened every day for a year. His mom finally sent him to live with his bio dad in another state. It was a weird situation. I still think about him though. Not eating lunch because you either just ate breakfast or dinner's only a few hours away, you'll be fine.
I still have trouble remembering to eat lunch.
Same, my husband always stays on me to be sure I've eaten because I'll go without, either because I forgot to eat or else because I will go without to make sure everyone else got enough food, even seconds, before I'll eat. Also, growing up, people or family were always fed in a certain order at meals: elderly, men, women over 40-ish, young kids, the rest of the women and any other kids /teens. Edit, grew up strict Southern Baptist in Western North Carolina.
Wow, in my family the youngest eat first and no adults even think about eating until all children have food.
In my family, the youngest bathed first, then siblings in order of age. Same bath water. Once/week. In the summer, bathing took place in the creek behind our house. The neighbor kids joined in. Only ivory soap because it floats. Lots of foraging for food and lots of homegrown food. I started working summers doing farm labor at 10 or 11 and hid my money in my room. As a young adult, when I had a steady job, having money left over after paying bills was super uncomfortable and foreign to me. I always got rid of it as quickly as possible, sending it to my sister and cousin who also struggled. They, in turn, would send me their extra money when they happened to have any. I still remember the panic of having a positive bank account balance. My comfort zone was living paycheck to paycheck because it's all I'd known. Funny how poverty as a child can shape your entire life.
To this day I am still confused by people who seem to hate leftovers. It comes up a lot when there's a discussion on whether it's cheaper to cook vs eat out. People who find it expensive to cook want to something fresh and brand new every day. Whereas I'll make a lasagna, about 6 portions, freeze it and have it whenever during the week/month. It confuses me even more when that person is British, considering how popular pre-made frozen food is here, and how many people find themselves at Frankie and Benny's, probably our version of Olive Garden, or TGI Fridays. I understand that cooking takes time and effort, which is why it doesn't make sense to me to throw away leftovers or not make a little bit extra.
My partner and their family hate leftovers. I think it has something to do with how they've generally always had money growing up. I wouldn't call them rich, but they were comfortable. I was so surprised my first Thanksgiving at their house when they organized the meal to have bare minimum leftovers. To me, that's the whole point of Thanksgiving. You have leftovers for days so you don't have to cook and get to enjoy at minimum 2 meals of Thanksgiving food.
That post-Thanksgiving turkey sandwich, with turkey's sandwich spread, and a good amount of black pepper is what I look forward to.
I know, right? For me it's a sandwich with turkey, mashed potatoes, stuffing, and just a smear of cranberry sauce with Duke's mayo. But no, these people were pathological, to the point of saying, okay, we have 5 people coming and they'll probably have 3 slices of turkey/ham each, so we're only going to order 15 slices of each, so there's just enough. One year I finally put my foot down and said I'll either cook or purchase a cooked turkey for Thanksgiving, and I'll take every single scrap home with me if I have to, just so I can have a damn turkey sandwich for lunch the next day.
If a lot of people are coming, I will roast one turkey and fry another to make sure there is plenty left over. Also, turkey noodle soup with meat and stock from the turkey carcasses.
My wife does not do leftovers but loves my cooking. I've henceforth tried to make like 3 portions, so I'm only eating the leftovers one time for lunch. If I make a full batch, I'd be running it all over the blessed county to friends and family. Which is not a terrible idea. Just they suck at returning Tupperware.
I wouldn't touch leftovers until I met my partner. I was horrified the first time she cooked something with old food. Turns out I was a spoilt man baby, 20 years on, and I'm nearly cured.
My husband was exactly the same. Anytime his family, who lived comfortably, took me, who grew up with basically the necessities, out to a restaurant, they'd always laugh when I asked to take my leftovers home with me. That's lunch for tomorrow, fam.
Even for people who live comfortably, why throw away leftovers? That's just wasteful, and there is no benefit, personally or environmentally, to being unnecessarily wasteful. Even if there isn't enough left over for lunch on its own, usually something can be cut up and mixed into a salad or something.
Some meals even taste better the second day.
Some foods taste better reheated. LOL, y'all replying to me with all your favorite reheated foods, and I have 2 things to say. 1, you're making me hungry AF. 2, glad to see leftover culture, as I dub it, alive and thriving on Reddit. LOL. we weren't allowed to do any kind of extracurricular activities. So, no instruments, no joining any kind of sports or Girl Scouts or anything that required an upfront investment for uniforms or the season. Walmart shoes. My dad once said I wasn't really in need of glasses, that I just wanted to look like all my four-eyed friends. LOL, spoiler alert, totally needed them, off-brand everything.
This makes me sad for the extracurriculars. It's insane how much money you need for sports and instruments, even buying used. They're so good for kids and should be available to everyone.
Where I went to school, a lot of the extracurriculars had grants where the rest of the parents would pitch in to pay the fees of the families that truly couldn't afford it. It was an economically diverse school with a pretty even distribution of families from food stamps to millionaires.
Parents often need to request these grants. Many won't.
Yup, my parents would never accept help or handouts.
The extracurriculars one cuts deep. I grew up as one of the poorer kids in a pretty wealthy area, and after school everyone else would be being shuttled around to all these extracurriculars and tutoring, whereas I'd just be always only going home.
Geez, I'm with you on that one. For some reason my mom thought I would be better off at the nicer junior/high school when I should have been going to school in the center of the city. Same thing. Wealthy kids, all about brand name shorts and shirts, who played soccer every year and who kept their ski tickets on their jackets so we could all see they went skiing on the weekends. Back to school after the holidays was rough too. Yes, please tell me about all the things you got for Christmas, piece by piece. That was in the 90s. I couldn't even begin to imagine what it must be like to be poor now. Now when they market $1,000 cell phones as gifts for Mother's Day, and Christmas is all PCs, laptops, cell phones and tablets. It's tough to watch and be a part of, so I'm sorry you had to go through it too. For all the children who have to go through it.
Don't ask for anything because you won't get it.
This one is a really hard one to get over, too. Like, I don't ask for anything, ever, and it leaves the people who love me very confused, lol.
Yeah, same here. I didn't realize this wasn't normal until my girlfriend didn't get why I was so uneasy with a friend buying me lunch. A lot of pent-up guilt there.
OMG yes. Even if it's just a regular trade cease kinda thing, I bought drinks, so they buy lunch, it still feels like charity. Especially back in the OL college days where it actually was at times, sad face.
Yeah, and as an adult, you're basically on your own. I remember being in awe of how much people relied on their parents in their 20s. I'd be in a bind and someone might say, "Why don't you ask your mom?" Because I have more money than she does.
This is a huge one. Really affects every life decision you make because you don't have backup.
This happened to me hard when I was 18. I finally got enough money to move out and I traveled to the town I wanted to live in and had a job lined up. Dumbass me didn't realize that I needed security deposit, first and last month's rent to move in. So, I ended up sleeping in a tent/car during winter eating ice cream because it was the cheapest per calorie. If you know what Stewart's shops is, they have like 30 flavors and it was only $2 for a half gallon of ice cream back in the early 00s. Couldn't ask anyone to borrow money and basically F-ed myself and didn't want to go back home and be seen as some failure. Now I triple quadruple check anything that requires a huge commitment because that was a horrible existence. Lucky for me, 15 years later, I am very well off financially. So I've gotten a little less stress about moving and have done so at least 7 or 8 times across the country since then.
Yes, my dad's motto was "Those who ask, don't get." It really confused me as a child and still to this day.
Funny enough, even if you didn't ask, you still never got.
It wasn't until adulthood my co-worker taught me a closed mouth doesn't get fed. Really put my life into a new perspective.
The squeaky child gets the hose.
Corollary, learn it as a kid pretty young that the only way I got what I wanted is to get it myself. Started working odd jobs at 12 to earn money to buy stuff to read.
A/C was only for company. I lived in Florida and didn't know I could use the air conditioner without having someone over until I moved out of my parents' home.
In the same vein, I lived in a place with bitter winters. While the thermostat at school and other public spaces was turned up past 70 degrees Fahrenheit, my home was always around 60 degrees, sometimes dropping to the 50s. We'd offset the low temperature by sleeping with multiple blankets and wearing layers upon layers, sometimes even wearing snow pants around the house and to bed.
Same. Even as a kid, always had to go to the restroom in the middle of the night. The floor felt like ice.
Even our company had to sweat their asses off with us.
We placed a bowl of ice cubes behind a fan, lol.